guys, welcome in. This is our first ever recorded practice round at Fitzgerald Park out in Grand Ledge. This is going to be pretty rough. This is the first go around, like I said, so let's start here on hole 1. Just throwing over this mound, kind of dead straight, a little bit of a left to right on the fairway. The biggest challenge out here today, especially on these open holes, is going to be the wind. We believe on these couple of first holes there's like a ripping headwind from right to left. So kind of just turned that one out of my hand. Not the best. Nick up next. I think Nick's going to throw a little bit more of a stable disc, which is a smart idea with this headwind. And he throws it pretty well, just a little bit short. So here we have me. I'm probably about 50 feet away. Really not my best effort. I was a little concerned about that headwind coming over the top of the basket and just got the nose up. Nick has this pretty tough downhill putt, circle's edge. With that headwind coming in, it can be, you can see how his putter just stayed up in the air. 25-foot comebacker here, maybe circle's edge. Just off the top. About a 15-foot comebacker for me. Slight tailwind. And honestly, almost missed that high because I thought the tailwind was actually going to drop it on me, but we're good. Tap in. So Nick took a 4 on that hole. I took a 3. Moving on to hole 2. There is some OB, and that's going to come into play here in a second. So I'm really just trying to get a nice straight flight on this driver, and there's a pretty significant headwind. The gusts were probably over 30 miles an hour, and I just turned this out of my hand, and you can't really see on camera, but it went way up in the air over that basketball court to the right, stalled out, and then dove back in, and it ended up being out of bounds. Nick's going to go for pretty much the exact same shot that I was attempting. Just get yourself down the fairway on this par 4. And he throws it a little nose up. But honestly, no harm, no foul. He didn't go out of bounds. He's over on the left-hand side. Pretty open look. Now here we're just kind of discussing how this went out of bounds because it was a little confusing how it anhyzered out, the headwind lifted it up and went way out over the basketball court and then hyzered back into the basketball court. So
over the OB and then
from my angle, I thought it went out on this side of it. And so he gave me a mark right here. And this is still quite a ways out from the basket. And I put a pretty good throw on this. It just wasn't quite far enough. I did get a skip off of that OB parking lot. Left me with pretty big distance putt. And that would be to save bogey. Nick throwing a really stable disc, just ripping it right into this headwind. Really good commitment. Skip off of that OB parking lot. And Nick's sitting at, I'd say, about 50 feet. And this headwind, if I can remember, was really gusty at this time. And he throws up. It was so crazy how gentle it hit the chains because it just ran out of steam completely. He did it perfectly. And then I'm lining up this like 45-footer, 40-footer, and not my best effort. I was hoping the headwind was just going to keep my putt straight and glide it in there. There is that OB parking lot behind the basket too, so I was a little afraid of that. But buried that one home, so good to go. On to the next one.
Nice putt.
So this hole doesn't have a tee sign. Pin is basically straight from the tee pad. You really just want to throw something low and penetrating on a hyzer with a stable disc and get it to finish gently left, kind of through the gap that Nick just threw. Not quite that high. He did get a late tree hit and kicked him kind of straight down in the fairway. And again, I still kind of threw it a little higher than I meant to, not nearly enough power. That shot right there is something that I've really been working on. I need to get a better reach back and a much faster pull through if I'm going to get the disc down to this basket. Nick's probably out at 100 feet here. Pretty big jump putt, but did leave himself short. Now I'm probably 80. And I did give this one some commitment, just pulled it way to the right. Actually almost trickled over that OB road. So yeah, Nick's sitting here at about circle's edge, which is definitely not where he meant to leave himself. Just off the right side of the cage, and man, almost trickled into that OB road as well. Now I'm actually kind of standing in the OB, which is not great, so I need to pay more attention to that. But did bury that one. Nick does the same, and we move on to a nice little shorty here. Putter shot right up the middle. It does take some control. I mean, there's some dead tree branches hanging down to the left, and then basically just a wall of trees on the right and left. There is a hyzer gap. I think the straight gap is definitely the better play. That hyzer gap is pretty finicky. There's a lot of different trees that you got to miss to actually get down to the pin. Throwing a P Model S here, and I was pretty happy with this. Got a nice little check up against the tree that's near the bullseye of the basket. I think Nick's throwing a buzz here. Might even be a Buzz SS. And just kind of early releases it, a little bit nose up. Not where he was trying to go. But he's got a nice putt here or a nice long putt here to try to give it a bid at least. And honestly does that and still keeps it pretty close to the bucket. Just outside of the bullseye, I'd say. And man, bounced it right off the pole. I was worried that one was coming back out at me.
I'll pick you up. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, on to hole 5. This is a par 4. Pretty challenging, actually, if you don't get off the tee. If you don't give yourself, get halfway down this fairway, it can become trouble. So I'm trying to put a hurting on this sidearm and get it to flex out left where there's a little bit more airspace, and
oh no,
this happens.
Oh no!
Probably the worst possible outcome. Pretty disappointed in that. Nick's actually going for a different sidearm gap here. He's trying to throw the low line to the left side, which is a good play. I probably should have done that, and just lets it get up, nose up on him a little bit, but not bad at all. Made some progress down the fairway for sure. Now I'm in major trouble here. I got all these little teeny trees that I had to go up over the top, and just tried to throw a little tomahawk and give myself something to work with on my next shot, and really got pinned up against this big tree here, and and the sidearm was there. And I know I can get it there from this distance, but I couldn't get that tree out of my head and just drilled it. So I think I progressed maybe 40 feet up the fairway, so not ideal. Now, I'm probably about 250 out right here and easily could have just got up and down, but threw my shot really low. Fortunately, I did get a couple of skips. I almost got a negative skip and got myself to about 40 feet. Now, Nick is in an ideal position. This is where I intended to land, and just give yourself a nice fairway driver, fairway driver forehand into this green. And that was really smooth from Nick. Bad tree kick. He was going to be up right in the circle on that. About 80 feet out. And Nick I did want to point out, he's putting with new putters today. He's usually a P2 guy from Discmania, and he's putting with P1, so he's still getting used to how they fly, especially at longer distances. Ooh. I was further out than I thought on that, more like 60, and honestly I gave the basket a scare on that one. I thought I was going to make it. Nick from about 12 feet drills it. And I'll tap this in and we'll keep going. Not a great hole for me. Now we're going to walk down to the bottom of this hill here, and we're throwing back up, par 4. Anything over those hay bales, they have the black tarps on them. On the right-hand side there are out of bounds. And Nick threw this really well. I liked how this came out of his hand. He did get a fortunate kick right off of those hay bales to stay in bounds. I was really trying to get myself about halfway up this fairway, and I'm going to give myself a nice easy birdie putt for a 3 on this, and just drilled the tree branches above my head.
Bad crack.
Pretty disappointed in how the backhands are going right now. I really liked this out of my hand.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I wanted my drive to land. Basket is perched up on this hill. It's actually further back on the hill than you would think. So you got to get it yourself up and over the top of this hill if you want to get an easy birdie. So Nick's got some work to do down here still. Just a little low out of the hand. He's going to leave himself with probably a 40-footer, I'd say. Now, I was thinking about jump putting this. It is pretty far. Probably plays like a 150-foot jump putt with how steep this hill is. So, decided to just flick a shot to outside of the circle.
Should be in circle.
I rushed it. Can't do that kind of stuff. Just a little bit further than Nick wanted on his approach shot on this hole. Actually, I guess I'm maybe just inside the circle.
Yeah, nice spot.
Very happy with making that one. And Nick to finish up. On to hole 7. This is a really cool shot. Probably one of Fitzgerald Park's signature holes. You're just throwing right down this tunnel here. A couple little trees in the way, so there is a luck factor to it. But if you throw a nice flat putter, Nick tried to do here, and he actually took that right-hand gap and threw it to perfection. Slid right down the right side of that hill there, almost to the bullseye. And now I'm trying to just take my A4 and put a nice little anhyzer on this, and didn't quite execute. Hit off the tree, hit off the side of the hill, and gave myself a fortunate roll, at least down to the middle of the fairway. And I'm in about 50 feet here, 45, 50 feet. and left foot is probably a foot and a half higher than my right foot.
Yes, sir. Right in,
It felt so good to actually hammer those home. Putting has not been going very smooth for me lately, and I'm very happy with making those. Great birdie for Nick. Now, hole 8, this one is tricky. There's a lot of downed trees out here from windstorms this past season. This is tricky. Nick's going to show you the forehand line. A little bit too much hyzer out of his hand leaves him a little short. But he did execute the shot window perfectly. That's where you're aiming for. And I'm going to throw an A4 kind of on that same release point, but get it to flip up and ride straight for a while. And this one nearly aced.
Beautiful.
At least from a tee pad point of view.
That was close.
Yes, sir.
Nick at about circle's edge. And man, he's still getting used to those P1s. That was a really good putt. Just stayed straight on him. His P2 would probably hyzer right into the basket from that same line. These are testers.
Good
and Nick
putt.
just buried it. Perfect straddle putt.
Nice
Birdie for
putt.
me, almost slipped right through. All right, on to hole 9. Kind of a makeshift tee sign there. Basket is straight ahead. Maybe a little bit to the right. So you got to throw something a little bit understable, or put a little bit of a turn on a stable fairway, even a mid-range. Throwing an FX4 here. And I honestly was extremely happy with this out of my hand. Got a straight skip through the gap there.
Really
and just
good.
happened to hit a tree. I mean, I would have been 10, 15 feet from the basket without hitting that tree. Still a good shot, though. Nick really liked this out of his hand. Just happened to hit the big tree on the left-hand side. Good pull through for him. Now, he's got a tricky window here on a sidearm. I've been over there plenty times. He's throwing an A2. And executes it perfectly. About circle's edge here. Oh, just a little low. And of course, here's 2-putt Eric. Yeah. And Nick
You can pick mine up.
drop in to save his par. That was great work. On to hole 10 here. This one's tricky. So it's a dogleg left, but it's a very specific hyzer line. It's not something you can just throw out and let it dump. It's got to be kind of flipping up as it goes left. So I decided to throw an A4. I think I can execute this shot pretty well, 8 times out of 10. And I just rolled my wrist, turned it into a roller, and you can see the disappointment
What
on
was that?
my expression there.
Terrible.
It's not the result we're looking for.
Now Nick is throwing a Mindbender. That's a Discmania MD1. Perfect disc for this hole, in my opinion. Put it on a nice hyzer and kind of let it stand up as it turns left. And he threw this perfectly. Yeah. Yep, you see the excitement on his face too. And now this is fortunately where I ended up. I think I got a little bit of a roll off of that, so I'm in circle 2. Got a hyzer around that last tree before the pin. Oh my gosh, I thought I made that out of my hand. And here's Nick with, he's right at circle's edge, I'd say. I think he might have hit one of these last trees because I thought he was going to be in the bullseye when we walked up here. Honestly, I like the straight commitment out of his hand, just a little bit nose down on that putt. Some shenanigans from me. Hole 11. This one is, it's really tough. There's a lot of luck involved here. There's a lot of little skinny trees that stick up. I'm just throwing an FD3. trying to stall it out, throw it straight, stall it out, and dump it right, and just completely early released it. I'm surprised I even got to where I got with that throw. Disappointment there. Nick going for a very similar line, fairway driver. And he actually threw this pretty well. I think he may have got a tree hit up high and kind of kicked him down early right. So I did want to point out it was so beautiful outside when we were playing this round. I mean, Michigan in March can be really hit or miss, and we picked a beautiful day to come out here and play.
This one you might want to get
I'm not really sure
behind.
what I'm filming here, but all right. I am outside circle 2 here. I think I'm 70 feet or so, and I just decided to commit to this one and see what happens.
Oh, run it in.
Very pumped up on that one. Had to run it down.
Go.
That could have gone either way. It could have splashed out, hit right off the
Let's
top of the cage on the
go.
front, dead center, and decide to stay in for me. 40-footer for Nick. Really good attempt from Nick there. Hole 12. This is a par 4. Honestly, if there weren't as many trees, it would be a nice par 3. But it plays pretty challenging. If you do not get off this fairway and get at least halfway down, you're in trouble. So I'm going to take my MD1 and just try to put it on a nice ante out of my hand.
Oh, yeah.
Forced it over a little bit too much, but it got through cleanly, so no problem there. Nick going to do the same thing here. I think he's throwing a Lozado. Hugs it a little bit too tight. He did get a kick, hard kick left. He's in a super tough situation here. Has to go up and over. You can't even see him on the video. There's all these tiny little, like 1-inch diameter trees that stick up that he has to go up over the top of. And honestly, he threw it pretty well out of his hand. It just filtered over the right a little bit too much and got knocked down. It's one of the most challenging shots in disc golf, just throwing a nice straight putter shot, hitting a gap, trying to get it as close to the basket and get up and down.
Please get off of that.
Just pulled it to the right a little bit. I have a jump putt here. I think I'm probably 100 feet out. And for a minute there, I thought I had a chance on this one. Just over the top of the basket. Nick at about 80. He had a rock down in front of him with some moss on it, so I think he was just trying to test to make sure he wasn't going to land on it jump putting. Oh, he got the worst reaction off of that tree. Honestly, circle's edge.
Nice.
He just buries it. Great putt, Nick.
Looks
This
like
is dead
it.
and
Can you pick it up?
unattached, so I'm just gonna move this out of the way.
That's some good weight. How much do you think that weighs?
Gotta be 500 pounds.
Right. Lightweight.
Tap in there. And on to the next one. So this hole doesn't have a T sign either. A really good shot on this is a backhand slight turnover with a putter. Not a very long hole. So I'm taking a P Model S here and just trying to put a little bit of ante on it out of the hand. And honestly put way too much ante on it out of the hand. And to be honest, I am pretty lucky that I caught a tree at the very end of the flight, because I could have gone down into the river off of that cliff on the right-hand side there. Nick going for a similar shot shape. Honestly, threw it very well. Just a little bit nose up, and it caught something and hyzered out on him. This course needs some management. People need to get out here and clean up all these dead limbs all over the fairways, which I'm sure they plan to do come springtime. Probably a 45-footer, 40-footer. Slightly uphill.
Yes.
Super excited
Let's
about making
go.
that
That's
one.
a good one.
Putter's feeling good. If only I can get some of my drives and upshots
It almost did,
under
but
control.
it didn't. But it didn't, though.
So, fun fact for you all watching. So Nick makes this putt, and when he went back to his bag, he was trying to turn around and talk to me, and took a stick right to his eye, and it was it was irritating him for the rest of the round, which sucks. I was throwing an 82 here, basket straight down and a little bit to the right, just yanked it out of my hand. I decided to film the ground here instead of filming Nick for whatever reason. And so the video is going to cut off here in a second, which is extremely unfortunate because Nick pured this gap, just a laser beam straight down the fairway.
No!
Yeah, this is me getting in trouble off the right side of the fairway here. So I'm just going to play a couple more strokes while Nick waits to tap in his birdie putt.
Wow.
You know,
So both-
practice throws. Somebody's got to tell that guy to stop messing around. Like I said, Nick absolutely pured it. I think he caught that tree just to the left of the basket, and look where he's at. Speaking of maintenance, there's a branch sitting on the cage. Very interesting that nobody has moved that. Maybe it's part of the course now. So this hole is interesting. So there's this big mound, and then there's a really deep pit that's right before the basket. Now, Nick actually stayed short of the mound, which is good. I'm going to throw an 8-4 here. I'm elected to go with a standstill. And honestly, I thought this was perfect out of my hand. And it ended up a little short. Nick at about 60, maybe 50. Really great speed out of his hand. Honestly, just got away from him a little bit. Now this pit usually has a rope going down into it because it is so steep. So I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 feet away from the basket, but it feels more like a 30-footer uphill. And
Yes.
foot fault.
Football.
I fell forward catching myself on the side
was
of
it?
that hill there, so
I don't
that
know.
is a foot
Well,
fault stroke.
I'm not-
Nick mentioned it, and then I seconded it right away. I said, yeah, that's blatant foot fault, so had to go for it again.
Yeah.
And an even more confident putt the second time, so I felt very good about saving that. Just right off the front of the cage for Nick on his comebacker. This hole is very tricky near the basket. It's heavily guarded. There's a lot of broken tree trunks that are sticking over the fairway, as you can see down there. Nick's going to throw. He's actually throwing a driver here, which if he released this flat out of his hand, he would have been in a really great position, but he hyzered it, went over to the right side off the fairway. I'm going to throw an MD1 and try to just throw it mostly straight, but get a little turn, and I decided to give it a lot of turn and caught the tree on the right-hand side and kicked left. Now I got this little touchy upshot. Very thrilled with how that went. Honestly, left it a little short though. I gave myself some work to do. Nick's trying to go for this low line here to get up to the basket, and just happens to the best of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've all been there. So now he's got this 40-footer going uphill through a bunch of trees, and I thought he made that. And now he's got a really difficult putt here. I went behind him and looked at this lie. He had like a little tunnel to putt down, low ceiling, and drilled it. So very happy for him. Yeah, I got still like a 15 to 20 footer here, but made it with confidence. This hole is awesome. I wish it was a little bit longer. Love the premise of this hole. OB roads on the left and right that kind of triangulate in toward the basket. So as you get closer to the basket, the OB is tighter and tighter.
So short.
Dead center in the fairway, just a little short of where I wanted to be. Nick throws a beautiful flip up shot with his felon in the bullseye. So yeah, keep putting myself at this like 20 to 30 foot range here. I think I'd probably 25, 27 feet.
Yeah.
Putter's feeling good today. Nick, little drop in here. You can see how low this basket is. It'd be cool if they had an elevated basket on that hole. It would add to the difficulty for sure. Hole 18, you basically are just throwing a power sidearm, throwing it way out there and letting it dive into the right. There is some trouble short and long of the basket. I like this out of my hand a lot, but at the last second I heard some branches, so I wasn't sure if I threw it short and was in major trouble, but we'll see when we get up there. Nick put a hurting on this disc. Really, really good power sidearm.
Money.
Just left himself a little bit deep here, as you can see. Yeah, see, I blame that on the switching putters here. Nick will dial those in, I'm sure. And this is a tester coming back for your par. And he hits it perfectly. Great putt, Nick. Me for birdie.
Yes.
And I got it. Feels really good.
That's a wrap.
Yep. Hey, congratulations on our first recorded round.
Yeah, buddy.
Wonder if we can turn this around. You have anything to say about it?
It's iffy. Putting was pretty good. What about you?
I think it was all right. It was just a practice round, and was hoping to just get some film to evaluate myself on, and hopefully we can check out some good shots.
Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. We're going to be doing this more often, and if you would like to see more videos, please subscribe to the channel, and see you on the next one.